It's another week. It's a new year. There's plenty of stuff going on in the NRL. So let's get straight into it. The first thing I want to discuss is Stephen Crichton. If you've been living under a rock, you wouldn't have heard the news yet, but Stephen Crichton is going to be a Bulldog in 2024. The club hasn't announced it yet, but Fox League via James Hooper came out yesterday and said, hey guys, guess what? Stephen Crichton signing with the Bulldogs. It's reported that it's going to be a deal worth $3.3 million over 4 years. Now, if you're a mathematician like me, you can do the math just in your head and you'll know it's $825,000 roughly a year. Now, in my opinion, for a fullback, obviously we've signed him as a fullback because he's coming from the Panthers. He plays center at the Panthers. He wants to be playing fullback, but blokes like Dylan Edwards and Taruva are in his way. So that's the main reason he claims he wanted to leave Panthers. He claims it wasn't about money. He just wants to play fullback. And so we've signed him as a fullback. I assume in his contract, it would be, you're going to be playing fullback. You'll be playing this amount of games at fullback. And so we're paying him $825,000 as a fullback. Now, this is where my concern is. I love Stephen Crichton. He's a fantastic player. He's clutch. He's entertaining. He's got a bit of character about him as well. I love him, but I'm just worried that $825,000 is too much for Stephen Crichton. Because he's unproven at fullback. Now, I'm not saying he will never be worth that much money. He could come to the Bulldogs. He could kill it at fullback. He could be the second coming of Ben Barber. And bang, he's worth $825,000 easily. But as it stands right now, he's unproven at fullback. He's only played, I think, 6 games at fullback. 3 were pretty average. 3 were good. So I think $825,000 is a bit of a punt on Stephen Crichton. But the Bulldogs, like Serrato, Gus, they seem desperate to get a high-quality fullback in. We have Jake Averillo there, who I'm super high on. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm high on Jake Averillo. I think Jake Averillo, he was good at fullback in 2022, and that was with minimal training. Now he's got a whole preseason behind him, or he will have a whole preseason behind him. I think Jake Averillo can go to another level, and so I'm not a fan of replacing Jake Averillo when he's still got his chance to show what he can do. Because what happens if he goes out this year and just brains it at fullback? Maybe Averillo's the second coming of Ben Barber this year, and then we've got Crichton coming in as a fullback. It's probably, as I said, it's probably in his contract. He has to play fullback, and it just pushes Averillo out the door, even though he might be a good fullback. Same with Jacob Kiraz. He killed it at the World Cup for Lebanon. What if he's a gun fullback and we're just moving them along to make room for Crichton, who's unproven? And once again, I'm not saying Crichton won't be a good fullback. He definitely has the potential to be a good fullback. A lot of people are high on him. There's a reason Cameron Serrato, who is also from Panthers, wants him, but I'm just saying he's unproven at the moment, and we could have saved $500,000 by just running with Jake Averillo or Jacob Kiraz. At least give them a chance, see what they can do in 2023, and then sign Crichton. But I hope I'm proven wrong. As I said, I've said it a couple of times, Crichton may be the second coming of Ben Barber. He may be a really good fullback. He's just unproven. I just don't want to end up having him struggle at fullback and us having to move him to centers where we're paying $825,000 for him to play center when blokes like Joseph Manu, one of the best centers in the game, gets paid $400,000. Would you as it stands, we're probably overpaying Crichton as a fullback. I think as a fullback, he probably lands around $600,000, $700,000. But as a center, he's only $300,000, $400,000. Like, that's all Panthers were paying him to play center. And he was winning comps at the Panthers. So I am a little bit worried about the signing. I think we've overpaid as it stands now. But in 3 years' time, when we've won the 2024 grand final and we've won 3 premierships in a row, I'll be sitting here saying, man, we got him on an absolute bargain. Now, another issue you may have noticed going on in the NRL is the whole RLPA player agreement saga. Now, I don't want to get deep into this because guess what? I'm not an ex-NRL player. I don't work for the NRL. I don't work in any businesses whatsoever. So I'm not super smart on this topic. I don't know everything that's going on, but just from reading some things and listening to some things, I just want to put out there that if you're listening to what the mainstream media is telling you, that the players are greedy and that they want money and the NRL was going to give them money and the players brought it because they want more money, then you need to just take your head off and put it somewhere else, because the media are feeding you lies. This is what the mainstream media do. The media are run by the NRL basically, or rather the people that run the media have like partnerships with the NRL. Some of them own NRL clubs. And so, of course, the media is going to be taking the NRL side. The NRL are probably like paying them to put out these stories of ex-NRL players coming out and calling the players greedy. You have to understand that the media can't always be trusted. And guess what? In this scenario, the media don't actually, well, they've got an idea of what's happening and they know what's happening, but they're just reporting on one side from one point of view with a certain agenda. And that agenda isn't of the players. That's the NRL's agenda. The NRL, they want money. They're being greedy and they want to keep as much money as they can for themselves. The NRL makes, say they make 100% of the money, they just shortball like 5% off to the players and keep 95% to themselves. The players want more money, but in the sense that so there's 100% money, right? That's how things work. There's 100 of everything. The players, I like, just as a rough number, I don't know if this is the exact figures, but back 10 years ago, the players got 10% of how much the NRL made. So this is just really not even rough numbers. This is just numbers as an example to make the math simpler for me. Say the NRL makes $1 million. They make way more than that, but just as an example, the NRL make $1 million, right? And they're shortballing the players 5% of $1 million. How much is that? Like 500,000, 5,000? See, I don't know math. Say it's $500,000, right? And so all the players get a share of this $500,000. Now the NRL, 10 years later, they're making $2 million, but they still want to give the players $500,000. Now the players are saying, well, guess what? That's a little unfair because you're making more money, so we should make more money. But this is where it gets interesting. The media are taking that side of it and running with it when that's not really what happened. So the NRL came out, they announced the salary cap, and the RLPA were like, nah, we don't like this salary cap. And the media were like, oh no, these guys don't want all this money they've just been offered. They've been given 25% more money and they're saying no to it. That's not what happened. The players were actually happy with the money side of things. The players got what they want. They wanted the percentage share instead of the dollar figure share, and the NRL gave them that. But that's not what the issue is anymore, all right? The players are sweet with the money. They're happy now. Blah, blah, blah. They're greedy. Not anymore. They might call them greedy. If you think that them wanting that percentage to stay the same is greedy, then like that's fine. Sure. Like I'm not disagreeing with you. I personally think it's not greedy for the players to want to keep the percentage. If the NRL makes more money, the players should make more money. But some people think, they're making like $300,000 on average anyway. Like that's heaps. And I agree. Like $300,000 is life-changing money for me. So I'm not going to argue with you there. My point is that that's not the problem anymore. The players, if you want to call them what they were doing greedy, sure. But they're not being greedy anymore because now what they want is things like private health insurance from the NRL. They want a CBA for the women. The women have to play an All-Stars game in 22 days, and they don't even have a CBA. They don't have insurance. The men don't have insurance. They have to play trials in like literally less than 2 weeks. But the NRL are just screwing around going, like not putting all these things into the CBA that the players want, right? And so there's other things they want. Hang on, let me pull up some quotes. I don't want to like misquote everyone. If you're listening, I'm just going on my phone and I'm just going to get like, there's a thing from Chad Townsend of everything they want. It's a really good quote. Hang on, let me find it. Sorry for the delay. I should have been more ready. All right. So this is a quote from Chad Townsend. You can find this on the RLPA's Instagram page. So Chad Townsend said they want a funded past players program. So that means like retired players. When you retire, you get money. I think it's players that are retired now. They get like money to help them get jobs or just, land on their feet. They want funding for injury hardship. So like if you're Alex McKinnon and you get injured, you're sort of screwed because you're not going to get your contract anymore. They want a fund set up where the NRL constantly puts a little bit of money in over like, say every 3 months, they put a bit of money into this fund. So then when there is a major injury, players can pull out a little bit of money from that fund. They want medical support. So that's sort of the same, but rather than injuries, it's just all sorts of medical stuff, but that's pretty similar. They want an agreement rights on their employment conditions. So apparently there's a lot of the terms and conditions of their employment because they're employees of the NRL. There was a lot of gray area in the terms and conditions, and the players are like, well, we don't want gray area. We want black and white. So we know like what our working conditions are. If you're like a tradie and it's like, and you don't really know what the conditions are if you get injured on site. It's like if there was a gray area. So say in the rules, it's like, oh, if a forklift falls on you, man, we'll just handle how that happens when it happens. Where you probably want, if a forklift falls on you, you want to know, okay, this is what I get. I get all this money. I get all these funds. I get all this help. That's not like the NRL isn't telling them black and white what the help is going to be or what the terms and conditions is going to be. It's all grey. They want match fees outside the cap, which you can call that greedy, I think. Like, that sounds a bit dodgy. They want match fees outside of the cap. I think match fees should be inside the cap, to be honest. That should be part of your salary, I think. So you can call that greedy if you want. That's play on. And then a CBA for the women, which is like just all that stuff. They want it for the women. The women have nothing. At the moment, the men's people, they have a CBA. They're not happy with they want changes made to the CBA, but as it stands, they do have a CBA. The women don't at all. They're like 3 or 4 seasons into the WNRL, and they don't even have a CBA, which is very, very concerning. Because like they're professionals, and a lot of them rely on the NRLW, or they're trying to begin to rely on it as their jobs. Like, they're devoting so much time and their life to it, and they don't even have a CBA, which is very, very dodgy on the NRL's part. And so what's happening now, because the players want all this and the NRL aren't giving it to them, the players are starting to like stand together. You would have seen on Instagram yesterday, as in Thursday, I'm recording on a Friday, that the players all started posting like teal squares, which is the color of the RLPA, sort of Black Lives Matter style. They posted all the green squares on the Instagram and were saying like, we stand together, we support each other, we're not being greedy, we want like all this stuff. Stop listening to the media, start listening to us, the NRL. Pull your finger out of your beep and bloody give us the money, blah, blah. Not the money, the terms and conditions and the funds and stuff. Like, give them, just be a good employer and give them, just help them out, guys. Just help them out, Peter. V'landys, just help them out. But the problem is, the big issue that could arise from this is the way the players are united at the moment. If the NRL still don't do anything, the players aren't going to stop at posting green squares on their Instagram. The trial games are in 2 weeks, and I have no doubt that if the NRL don't sort out all this stuff for them before the trial games, they will boycott the trial games. They'll boycott the NRL All-Stars game, and if it continues on, they won't start the season. It happens in American sports all the time, in the NBA and NFL and MLB, that players have player lockouts, which means players don't go to training, they don't turn up to games. Usually clubs get on board and like they don't turn up. No media, no games. Like, a game will be scheduled Friday night footy. All the broadcasters will be there, all the NRL officials, and the clubs just won't turn up. And they're like, you know what? Until we get what we want, we're not going to play. And usually it works out pretty well for the players over in America when it happens. And so if the NRL don't sort this out before trial games, like, definitely trial games will be boycotted. And I think that NRL games will be boycotted as well if it's not sorted out before then. So it's exciting times, you know. As an NRL fan, I just want footy back, and footy might not be coming back. So Peter V'landys, if you're watching, I know you are a regular listener to the podcast. Please, Peter, sort your crap out. I want to watch some rugby league football. All right. That's it. That's all I'm going to talk about on the podcast today. You got Stephen Crichton. Actually, you know what? One more thing. Burton re-signed, baby. Woohoo! Matt Burton. I just realized I haven't done a podcast since before Christmas when I did one with Emilio. So, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Burton re-signed with the Bulldogs. Obviously, you've already heard that. But how exciting is that? Shout out to Matty Burton. He can have my kids. He's locked in. I think it was 5 years, including 2023, 4 years on top of his current deal, which ended at 2023. Although I believe he the way it worked was he said no to the player option and then just signed a 5-year contract. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So he signed till 2027. I haven't seen a dollar figure on that contract, but you'd assume it's somewhere around 800K, similar to what we signed Crichton for. So shout out to Matty Burton. Thanks for staying at the Doggies, bro. I love you. Matt Burton, I know Peter V'landys watches the podcast. I know Burton, he also watches the podcast. So Burton, when you're listening to this, just know that I love you. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm sure there's heaps more to talk about, but I didn't write notes down for this podcast, so I don't know what it is. I'm going to try and pump these things out weekly this year. I'm going to hopefully have guests on. We'll see how I go. Follow the socials. Go check out my TikTok. You probably hear from my TikTok, but if you're not, go follow my TikTok. Go check out my YouTube. These podcasts are now being uploaded on YouTube. That bit's awkward if you're on the YouTube and watching because you know it's on YouTube. But let's drop, baby.